there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be a full face makeup look using nothing but e.l.f. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. If you're into eyeshadow palettes, essence and Catrice, and getting the use out of your makeup the way that I am, then definitely stay tuned because I think today's video may be right up your street. I'm going to be using as many e.l.f. products as I can. I did a video like this about 2 years ago, and since then I haven't tried a lot of e.l.f. And not because I don't like them, but just because a lot of the new more hyped up products are really hard for me to get upon release. A lot of the items that I have to show you today, I cannot buy physically in store. The only place I could find them was elf.com. I found that they ship to the Netherlands, and there I could find the Halo Glow and the Power Grip Primer. Those are the two products I really wanted to give a whirl, and this entire video is instigated by me trying the e.l.f. Camo CC Cream last year and enjoying it quite a bit. And I was like, you know what? e.l.f. is one of those brands that I should have another look at just to see what they're currently doing, and let's just chat about this. So that's what we're doing in today's video, but before we start doing that, I would like to point out that I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, which greatly skews my makeup preferences. And because I have been buying, trying, and reviewing makeup for more than a decade, I have some very strong opinions as well. So if you'd like to join the Snow Angel Club, all you need to do is click the subscribe button down below. So yes, a full face makeup look using nothing but e.l.f. I have pretty much everything here save for a setting spray and a mascara, and everything else I will be able to show you today for sure. We're going to do base, we're going to do eyes, we're going to do lips. I even have some brow products. Yay. And the reason why I wanted to sit down and film this video for you today is because I just haven't tried e.l.f. in a while, and when I last tried them, I was like, yes, these are good products, but for the price point that I have to pay for them, I would rather buy Essence and Catrice because I live in the EU, the Netherlands to be quite specifically, and for me, Essence and Catrice are far more affordable, even though they've been hiking up their prices a little bit, than buying e.l.f. This is 15 euros. Like, I'm not sure if this is worth 15 euros if I can buy this from Catrice for 6, which is essentially the same, because I am going to be swatching these side by side to show you how similar or different these are. So these are both dupes for the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter, which I have in the shade 2, which is why I went with the shade 2 in the e.l.f. And you can just see that it's much darker, so I'm not sure. But then I look at this, and this is also quite dark from Catrice, so maybe these can be dupes for one another. So if you're in the US, the e.l.f. one may be more affordable and easier to get. And in the EU, the Catrice Glowifier primer may be easier to get. So that's something that we will do in today's video. But yeah, e.l.f. is one of those brands where so many people rave about them. And I think for good reason, but I think it's a better deal if you're in the US compared to somewhere where I live, because the prices are incredibly marked up here. A lot of it cannot be bought in store. We have e.l.f. in stores now, which is great. But some of these like newer releases just don't come to stores. And when I can find them online, they sell out within minutes because they are so raved about. So they are incredibly difficult for me to find. So yeah, I sort of had this idea of doing this video since like last summer, and only now do I have all the products to show you. Ramble finished. Let's just go in with the makeup, and we're gonna start off with the Power Grip Primer by e.l.f. This is compared to the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip, and the reason I have that, but the reason why I'm not putting it in this video because it doesn't feel the same at all. I already swatched everything, took pictures, and this did not feel like the Milk Hydro Grip. This is just a gel-based primer. That's like everything else. It only comes with 24 milliliters of product, which may seem like okay compared to the Milk. But for instance, this Essence one that I'm currently using in my Shop My Stash is 30 mils. This is 15 euros, this is 5. So if I can find good hydrating primers at the drugstore price point for a third of the price that this goes for, I don't need this as a dupe for the Milk Hydro Grip, and I find it's not that similar at all, because the Milk Hydro Grip really has this gripping quality to it when you swatch it. You can sort of feel it, it's just going to hang on to everything. And this just felt like any gel-based primer from the drugstore that I've tried in recent years. So I didn't feel it was a dupe, which is why I'm not going to compare it to the Milk. The only reason why it's compared is because it's styled in a similar fashion. And that's, spoiler alert before we sit down and do the rest, that's how I feel about a lot of these hyped up things that e.l.f. has been doing. They may be nice products, but I wish that rather than like recreating products that higher end brands are already doing, that the brand would invest more in doing good drugstore makeup. I said this in another video recently where I'm just a little bit over affordable brands only seeming to get hyped up if they do a dupe, which I don't think, and that's why I think, you know, when it comes to e.l.f., that's why they do it, because that's what gets them views and that's what gets them talked about on TikTok and other social media. But I feel it does kind of ruin affordable makeup for a lot of people. So rather than getting good affordable makeup to begin with, it's only really talked about if it does something like this, which I'm just not a fan of. So now that it's on this, I'm not sure if I'd ever want to go back to this again. This feels so drying on my skin. Like I can feel it like just shrinking on my face. So that's usually like, that's not usually very hydrating, whereas the Milk Hydro Grip hydrates and grips onto things at the same time. I mean, it definitely is going to do something in terms of priming for sure, but especially on my cheeks, it just really it doesn't feel nice. It does this, like, it sucks the life out of my skin. I'm gonna have to perhaps test it a bit more and see how long it makes my makeup wear, but I don't know. And in some areas it doesn't feel like I'm wearing anything at all, and I don't know. It's just a little bit thick, and I think you'd go through this really quickly because you don't get a lot of product, and there's actually quite a lot of product that you need to cover your entire face. So then we're gonna move on to the comparison of these three, because this I do want to wear under my foundation, but I'm not gonna do like a dupe on the face kind of thing. I just want to see how these compare to the other two that I've already tried. I do have a video, a short up with these two going on side by side. So then if you do want to see whether the Catrice is a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury, then you can find that. So this is what the e.l.f. one looks like. And that is the Charlotte Tilbury one next to it. So you can just see that the Charlotte one, A, has more shine, and 2, it's lighter. I feel that the e.l.f. one is closer to like that, like foundation-like base, because you can use this instead of foundation, of course. It's like the entire game. It can be a highlighter, it can be used under foundation, but it can also be used in place of like a sheer base. Because I think that in terms of like depth, the Catrice one may be more similar to the e.l.f. one, but I already found that the Catrice one has even more glow than the Charlotte Tilbury one. So that's why I wanted to put these up side by side. I feel this is a bit more peach. This is a bit more orange. Let me see if I can sort of spread this out a little bit more. The Catrice one, the only downside is because it's a dropper, you don't have a lot of control about how much product you get, which is easier with the e.l.f. and the Charlotte Tilbury. So this is them sheared out. So on my skin, the e.l.f. just doesn't do a lot. It's just a patch of darkness. It doesn't really have a lot of glow. This is the Catrice, that whole patch here, and then here we get the Charlotte Tilbury. Just right off the bat, in terms of a dupe, I think the Catrice one is better for me personally, because I love a bit of glow. I don't mind if I look like a grease ball. And the e.l.f. one it's a bit lackluster to me. I understand why people say it's a dupe. It definitely is a dupe. And I'm going to be using the e.l.f. one all over my face today, just to give it a whirl. But in terms of like shade, what it does, I feel this is just a little less glowy than the Charlotte Tilbury. And I actually prefer the Catrice one, because this is also a very hydrating formula, feels very pleasant on the skin, and I actually prefer it over the Charlotte one. Don't come for me, but I like the Catrice one a lot, so maybe I'm just really biased. I think that may be why, but it's not that I try to hate on e.l.f. They do some really pretty products, like I said at the beginning. I think that if I were to like live in the US and this was a brand that I could just shop from Target whenever I'm like getting groceries as well, like I would totally totally love this so much more than I do now. But that's just because I have to pay so much more money for it. I can't find this in stores. Oh, the shade isn't horrible. It is too dark, but the shade isn't horrible. And I'm going to go in with a super full coverage base in a minute. So it's going to be fine. So yes, this is nice. I mean, it adds a nice bit of glow. A little bit more so than it looked in the swatch. So that's a little bit more promising. But this is thick. Maybe it's also because I put that Power Grip primer on. Like you can just see that it's a little bit too dark here. But then when you can blend it in. And I'm pretty sure after foundation and bronzer, it's going to look fine. So there we have that. But yeah, this is just, it just feels a bit heavy. And that's one of the things I love about the Catrice one. It's so thin. It's thinner than the Charlotte Tilbury one. And it just really blends into the skin super seamlessly. And I just like the distribution of the dropper as well, because one dropper is perfect for my entire face. So you can just see that I really have this line here now. So it is too dark. This works for sure. I think this is really nice. If you want to go for that Charlotte Tilbury dupe, if this is the more affordable, more easily available option for you, I think you're gonna love it. You definitely don't need to spend like what, 35, 40 euros that this goes for to get this like glowy base effect. But if you're in the EU and you can get your hands on this one, the Catrice, the Glowifier, I think trumps both of these products. Going in with base, this is the e.l.f. Camo CC Cream. So this is in Fair 120, and I love this thing. It's just more full coverage than what I prefer. If I could top this over with like a dewy skin tint-like product, I'd love it. e.l.f. doesn't seem to be really doing any sort of skin tints at the moment, but I found this at my local store, and it was one of those drugstore foundations that I was like, oh, I've heard good things about this. Maybe I like it. The only thing I don't love about it is how full coverage it is, because I'm not a full coverage kind of gal. If you are a full coverage guy or gal, then this is going to be lovely. It's really not that expensive. I mean, I think these products are just as expensive, like $15, something like that. And this is good. Like if you love that full coverage look, this is good. But I feel I just need like the smallest amount. I think I've actually already pumped out too much. But the shade of this is really good. Like, look at that. That is my shade. It's just, like, you can blend this in for days, but I have been doing this technique to apply foundation ever since trying the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin. And I have found that it works with a lot of foundations. And that it's just so much easier to first sort of apply everything with fingers and then blending it in with a brush. But this is far more coverage than I need. I really don't need this much. Like this just keeps on going. And that's the only downside to it. But I like how rich and creamy it is. But because of the name, Camo CC Cream, I thought this was going to be more like the IT Cosmetics CC Cream. And while it is very rich and creamy, this just has far more coverage than the IT Cosmetics one. And that's the only reason why this isn't my favorite. But in terms of like a full coverage base that isn't too heavy or cakey, I think this is a good one. Like I first go around the edge. Oh, there we go. Like for a full coverage base, it really has good blendability. And I do like the way this looks. It wears really well throughout the day. I don't find that it starts to look cakey on my dry skin, which I also love. It doesn't accentuate fine lines or wrinkles at all. I mean, it's a really, really good product. It really is. It's just not necessarily for me. Like, I can barely see my own skin texture coming through. I've got a couple of like zits coming in. But that's about it. But yeah, I like it a lot. And the shade of this is really good. And I don't think this is the lightest one they do. I think there are lighter shades in this range. So if you're looking for a hydrating, full coverage base at the drugstore, then I think this is really nice. The product I'm probably most excited for, that I'm finally able to try, is the Hydrating Camo Concealer. So I tried the original Camo Concealer, and tell me, that was far too much coverage, and it accentuated all of my dry lines. But then they were doing this, and I was like, I still want to try that. So I don't need a lot, so I'm just going to use it on the under eyes, because if I use it anywhere else, I could mess up the base too much. Just to give it a try. This is in the shade Fair Beige, which seems to be a good shade for me. Like, I'm just gonna go in with a dot because I'm sensing this is otherwise going to look like too much. It's a really good shade for me. Really good shade. Yes, like that. It blends into the base really well too. And then just to, especially if something's like rich and creamy like this, that looks really pretty. Very natural, but it covered my dark circle without like too much effort. And that's something I have found. This is very much like my skin tone in a concealer, and I have liked that a lot better on some areas, because if it's too light, I feel I lose coverage. So I have found that going in with something that's like right on your skin tone or just a touch lighter is fine. But if it gets to be too light, it really doesn't work. So let me just get that in here, because we've got some darkness really right. Like this entire corner is just dark for me because I have such deep set eyes. And then again, using my fingers just to blend it in. I always find that, you know, using your fingers just really helps with these like thicker creams. But that, again, it looks stunning. Dark circles are gone. This is a good one. I just have to make sure that this doesn't look weird after like a couple of hours of wear, but this could be a good one that I do want to try a bit more. Like that's the one product here that I feel super excited for. Now, normally when I do full face makeup looks, I don't have a powder, but this intrigued me. The Halo Glow setting powder, a loose setting powder, like who am I? I haven't tried a loose setting powder in like forever. And it does have this really clever packaging where you get this little thing that you can twist, and then you get to the product. The only problem I have found is that when you put some powder in the cap, like if you don't use all of it, then it may get a little bit messy, because now that twist thing just kind of acts as a scraper. So it can still get messy, but it does mean that you can travel with this, which I always appreciate. And it's easier to use than like something that you need to pull off. Like just the twist means you don't have powder flying everywhere. So I think this is a clever powder, and it's their Halo Glow setting powder. So I'm hoping it's not too matte. And does this come in a shade? Did I tell you? Oh, does it have a shade? I think it's just one shade. Universal, which we all know doesn't exist. So I don't like using powder all over. I just use it in targeted areas, and I go in with the smallest amount I can muster. I don't even want to set my makeup into place, because setting my makeup, I have dry skin, doesn't look great. So I just want to sort of take some of the shine off in certain areas and sort of set the under eyes, but that's why I don't use powder puffs or things like that, because I get far too much powder. I think that works if you have oily skin, or maybe if you're in your 20s, but if you're in your late 30s like me, you've got some fine lines and wrinkles coming in, and if you're any older than that, you just don't need a lot of powder, I find. So of course I don't know yet how this powder is going to wear, but I feel that it looks really pretty. It's not too mattifying, but it doesn't also make my makeup look too dry and cakey, so I really like that. We're first gonna move into brows, and I had never tried their black eyebrow pencil. I had tried the white one, but this ultra precise brow pencil I don't believe I've ever tried. Now I can't read what shade this is, but I think it was a like taupe one, and like this looks nice. It's one of those skinny pencils that I usually love for just like filling in some gaps. I don't want my brows to be too intense, even though I need to get them done. Like, I definitely need to get them done. But now that I'm putting this in my brows, can you see what happens? It's far too red. And that was my issue with the previous pencil as well. The shade wasn't quite right, and this is also quite warm toned, which it's gonna go with my hair for sure, but my brow, you can just see that it's very ashy. So this kind of clashes with my natural brow hairs. So we'll just see how it goes. But maybe this can save the day. And I know I've tried this before, the Wow Brow in taupe, and I accidentally bought 2 of these, but I thought it was worth a shot. It's like a really good drugstore like brow gel for sure. It's very similar to my favorite, the Essence Make Me Brow. I still have 2 of those in backup, but I also like the e.l.f. one quite a bit, so, but it wasn't like my top favorite, but you know, it's good. It works really well for the price point. I believe in the US this is like $5 or whatever, and for that price point I feel it works really well. But like I said, the Essence one is still my favorite and nothing has ever beaten that. I've tried a lot. I've tried them all. Benefit, Glossier, I've tried so many brow gels, but the Essence one still is on top for me. But this is a good drugstore contender for sure. So yeah, the brow pencil, a bit too warm. Like I just feel like I've got a red patch right here in the front of my brow, and the brow gel toned it down a little bit, but not enough. Going into cheeks, and I've got all cream cheek products, and I'm super excited for this. They didn't really have a good highlighter that I hadn't tried yet. I'm not a huge fan of the e.l.f. highlighters. I find them to be a bit too chalky, the ones that come in powders. But they did have this Jelly Pop highlighter, which looked really pretty. It's that shade I love the most. So if you saw my highlighter collection, I have this thing for these like peachy pink highlighters. This is another one of them. And now I have it in a cream stick. I know. And then I have the 2 like putty bronzer and blush formula. They do a luminous version of the bronzer, but those just seem to have a lot of actual sparkle, which had me worried, so that's why I didn't pick that up. And I also got a matte blush. The bronzer I believe is in Shady Business. Is that a shade name, or is that a Fenty Beauty product? I need to look it up because there's no name anywhere on the product itself. Feeling Shady, and this is in the shade Tahiti. It's on the side, not on the back. But yeah, the bronzer looks like more like a contour shade for most people, I think. But this is, if it works, then it can be like a really pretty cool tone bronzer. I do worry a little bit about how to use these, because I feel they need to be warmed up with fingers for them to blend and sheer out. But if I put it first on the back of my hand, I'm going to be left with a lot less product. And with the blush as well, like that there I probably won't have much problem, but my finger is just not that big. So am I going to dot it around and then blend it in with the brush, or am I going to put the brush in here? Let me try both and see what we come up with. So I'm just going to do this, like just a couple of dots, and see if it then blends. But usually I find that this moves around the base. Oh, in this case, it just kind of, well, it shows up a little bit, but it kind of just disappeared. This may be too light for me. Let me see what happens if I go in straight with the brush over on this side of my forehead. I mean, on camera I can see it, but in real life it looks like I did nothing, but that may actually be a good thing, because most bronzers are a little too much for me. But I think it works to just stick the brush in, and this Spectrum BO1 fits like perfectly into that little pot. So if you use a bigger brush, it probably won't work. It doesn't really seem to be moving or messing about the rest of my base, which is good. And I definitely can see something there. Like it's pretty. This is really pretty. It's very sheer, but it's very pretty. What do you guys think? I quite like this. I do really like this. It's very natural, which is probably why a lot of people don't like it, because they're not getting that like super bronzy look. But I don't always want that. Like, this is really pretty, and especially if you're fair and you have a cool undertone, the shade Feeling Shady is like a really good cool toned, like most people will use this to contour probably, but you can just see that on me it definitely does a little bit to warm things up. It doesn't look gray at all, like at all. I like this. I'm impressed. The Jelly Pop highlighter is next, and that I'm just Like that's the shade. It's this very nice transparent base, but then it has this pinky peach flash. So that's why I wanted to try this. And these do feel really creamy. So I am a tad worried that maybe in terms of like lasting power, these may not last, but I'll make sure to check in before I take off my makeup tonight. It's about like 11, I think, right now that I'm putting this on. Before I take it off, I'll make sure to film an update for you so you can see how it wore throughout today. So again, very natural. Again, also in real life, I can just see this nice bit of glow, but this does smell like watermelon. It's not like the very strong watermelon scent that the Essence Hydra Matte lipstick has, but you just get a whiff of it. It's not super perfumey though. But that, again, is very pretty. But the blush that's going to hopefully tie it all together is the shade Tahiti. And online, this looked like a vibrant red in all the pictures I could find. And then I got it in, and it looks like a muted rose. So I'm a little bit disappointed in the shade. But, like this, I do feel, again, maybe also for the bronzer, maybe it works better if you just stick your finger in and move it around a little bit, because this definitely needs to be warmed up, because else it's just a little bit too sticky. But it feels very balmy and creamy when you warm it up. So definitely make sure you warm this up in some way, shape, or form before you apply it. So I'm going to use a little bit more to intensify it. So for the most part, I usually want my cream blushes just to be a little bit more vibrant, precisely for this, because I feel we can barely see it. I'm sure it will build up. It will build, I'm sure. So now you can see it a little bit better on camera. And you can just see a little bit more what this shade does. It's pretty, but this is just not my kind of shade for a cream blush formula. It just isn't. So for eyes, I've got a couple of options here. I've got a new eyeshadow palette that I found online. I've got this liquid eyeshadow, and I've got these budge-proof eyeliner sticks. Now, these I'm not super impressed with. This just, I don't know. When I swatched it, it's the liquid metallic eyeshadow in Galaxy, I believe. So I thought this could be like a pretty like shimmering bronze or like taupey shade. It's definitely got a little bit of plum running through it. But then when you shear it out, it just disappears. Like the shine is gone. We just get like, it's just not that metallic. Maybe if I were to build it, it could work. Who knows? But I was just a little bit disappointed in that because it just kind of evaporates when you blend, which I don't love. And these budge-proof eyeshadow sticks, like this looks so pretty in the tube, and then that's what it swatches like. I don't know. Same thing here. It looks like a really nice like bluish gray charcoal, and then it's just a straight up gray when you swatch it. So these looked all to be a little bit more interesting than what I think they were going to give me, but I think definitely the charcoal one I can try today in the makeup look, but I want to play with this eyeshadow palette. This is the Celestial Winter Limited Edition for Winter 2022-3. And this has a couple of duochromes. I'll make sure to insert the swatches I did so you can see what this palette has to offer. We only get like 2 warm tones, and everything else are these like really pretty soft lavender, minty, periwinkle shades, and a bright blue and a cool tone brown. So I was pretty impressed with this, but then I swatched it, or at least I was a little let down, I guess, when I already opened it up, because this comes in the black packaging that e.l.f. used to do, and those products were never my favorite. I had 1 or 2 of those palettes in the past, and I found them to be a little bit chalky, and I feel this is not the same quality as in the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette, which is one of my favorite drugstore palettes. e.l.f. can do such great things, but I think here again it goes to show that just not everything from the brand is necessarily great. But I do want to play around with this. We're just going to see, I think I'm just going to put this in the crease, and then I really want to play with this like dimensional bluish shade. Maybe pop this on the lower lash line with a bit of this. And then maybe use this as eyeliner for the top lash to deepen it up. So think we can play with some of these for sure. And then we'll just see how it goes. So let me throw together an eye look. Right, so that's the eye look done. And I've used both of these, and I don't think these are going to last a long time in my makeup collection. I was hoping that these could be like a great dupe for US viewers of the Kiko Milano eyeshadow sticks that I love and adore. But these are called the Budge Proof or No Budge eyeshadow stick, and these blended into nothing. Like the gray one, I was hoping to use that as definition along the top lash line. But it went everywhere. The blue one looks nice, but I did top it with a little bit of eyeshadow so that it won't go everywhere. And I had them swatched on the back of my hand, and I was able to wipe them off cleanly. So these, I don't think, are as budge proof as the name might suggest. I think they're actually just a cream shadow stick that, you know, you need to set with eyeshadow for them to look nice. But the palette? Wowza! Why have I not heard anybody talking about this? I'm pretty impressed. That shimmer is what's all over the lid. It's like blue, but with a green, like it's a duochrome flash. It's really pretty. And I also use the duochrome that's next to it. In the viewfinder, it looks white. In real life, it looks like a soft pink satin shimmer. But as you can see in the inner corner, it has a more intense flash. And yes, I'm leaving that little bit of mascara right there because if it's totally dry at the end of my makeup look, I can just flick it away. So then I won't get a smudgy mess. So that's why I'm sort of waiting for that to dry down. That cool tone brown is really nice and soft. If you're looking for a really good drugstore cool tone palette, people have been sleeping on this one. Like these two shades I probably wouldn't reach for, but also that vibrant blue, that's what I popped on the lower lash line. It's really pretty. And then, you know, we just have that lavender purple, we have this periwinkle blue, and then these two more bluey shades. So I can definitely see myself like the only thing I would have wanted in here is like instead of this darker, like warmer brown, if it had a purple shimmer, it would have been a very complete light blue, periwinkle purple sort of palette. I think this is stunning. And it's not as like, these are not as chalky as I remember the other palettes in this black rectangular packaging to be. This seems to be much more similar to what the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean can do. It's just that they swatched quite sheer, so I wasn't having many high hopes for this, but for a quick and easy eye look, I think this is really pretty. And then we've come to the end. I just have two more things. I have the tinted lip oil, and does this have a name? This is the Glossy Lip Stain. And this is mauve, Power Mauve, and the oil is in Pink Kiss. So I'll put this on first, just to see what it does. This, shade-wise, it's a very pretty cool tone pink. And it reminds me of a shade from MAC I used to own in, I think it was a cream sheen formula. I'm not sure if they still do. It was called Pink Plaid. And that was like one of my OG favorite MAC lipsticks. And this really reminds me of that, but then with a glossy finish. This feels really nice, but I would have liked this to be more mauve-y leaning rather than this pink shade because that's a bit more wearable for me. This is just a touch lighter than my natural lip color. and it makes them look very blue, which with this eye look goes really well. I think it's really pretty together, but how much wear I'd get out of this, plus this smells of vanilla cupcake. And it's not too strong. Again, like with the watermelon scent in the highlighter, it's not this overpowering scent. So I don't mind it, but we all know how I don't love anything that's too scented. I just don't. What I'm most excited for is this glossy lip stain. This, however, when I swatched it, it looked peach. Like, can you see that? Like, it looks peach. This is not mauve. It does stain though, because it's only been on there for like 2 seconds. And it already has stained the back of my hand. So again, with this eye look, I think it works, but I want to take this off straight away. And it's because I don't like this formula. This is, it's driving me crazy. Hold on. I'm gonna pop the lip oil back on. The reason why this had to go off, like the minute I pressed my lips together, I was like, oh, no, I don't want this. It feels like a layer of latex, like liquid latex. I've never played with liquid latex, but that's what I imagine it feeling like. It feels like cling film for your lips. I don't like the feeling, and there's another thing I need to point out now that I've finished the entire full face. As I was doing the eye makeup, I got really itchy around here. Like my entire face felt itchy. It's disappeared now that I've put on setting spray. But there's definitely something in these products that my skin doesn't wholly agree with. So whether it's this, or whether it's this, or whether it's this I've worn before and my skin didn't react. So I think it's either one of these that my skin doesn't love. And I know that to some people this is going to sound super petty, but there are some textures here that make me cringe. Now I'm that kind of person that if the edge of my sock is not in the right place on my foot, I will take off my shoe and redo the whole sock. So I am that kind of person. I'm just quite sensitive to certain scents and like sensations, and there are a couple of products here that make me go like, no. This one in particular, and I definitely also didn't love this going on. It just didn't feel great. And yeah, so I'm gonna have to test some of these out a little bit more before I can fully make up my mind for sure. The things I would say not worth the money are these eye products, I think. I like this lip oil. It's very comfy on the lips. This is a really nice texture. If you love full coverage, you're gonna love this. I think for me, the stars of the show, the concealer and the eyeshadow palette, and these like cream cheek products I also quite enjoyed. So I'm just gonna have to figure out what it is, what makes my skin feel so itchy, because now that feeling is coming back, especially here around my nose. That's also where I'm the driest, so it probably is something to do with I'm not sure. So yeah, that was my full face of e.l.f. Like I said, I think that e.l.f. can do really good things, and if this is a brand that's very accessible to you, then I think you're going to be able to find some really good drugstore gems in the line. But for where I'm coming from, how much I have to pay for like shipping and handling to get these to me, because I think the website that I ordered from has their like warehouse in the UK, and because of the strikes and all of the issues that were going around, it took over a month to get these to me as well, which is why I'm only sitting down to film it right now. Because I already ordered these like just after Christmas, and it didn't get to me here. It didn't get to me until like the end of January. So it took a while for it to get to me. I do have to say though, it was super affordable because they also had a sale. So for some of these products, I only paid like 1 or 2 euros. So I really cannot be mad about it. But I don't want my skin to feel like this after I've done a full face of makeup. It definitely feels quite sensitive and itchy, and that's just not something that I love. So yeah, that's a bit of a downside here. I'm gonna have to figure out what it was that made my skin feel that way. But my money is on the primer. Alright, so the hair is up. I've been wearing this makeup for more than 10 hours. I'm about to go to bed and take all of this off. So this is what the full face of e.l.f. looks like after a full day of wear. The eyeshadow still looks okay, but I feel that the cheek has faded quite a bit. So these products don't stay looking vibrant all day. And I also feel that on my dry skin, the foundation, like it's held up okay. I'm not sure you can see here again, like around my nose, it really started to bunch up really quickly, and it also seemed to have disappeared in some patches. So the foundation and also the cheek products, I'm not too wowed by their longevity, but the eyeshadow is very crease free. It's sort of like lived in, of course, because it's been on my face for more than 10 hours. But yeah, overall, I still like this. It's got good wearability. It's nothing too cakey where I put the powder, for instance, and also the concealer still looks great. So this is very promising. Some of these products I'm going to be rolling into Shop My Stashes. You're going to see those on the channel for sure again at some point in time. And reviews to dedicated products always go live on the blog. So keep an eye out on there for some of these reviews as well. So let me round out this video. So that's my full face of e.l.f. and I'm really sorry if I sounded like a negative Nancy to you, but there were just a couple of textures here that didn't feel great for me. The glossy lip stain just really irked me, and that my skin got itchy as I was still applying makeup is just not a good sign. If I were to wear it long term, it could either irritate my skin further, or it could actually just my skin could get used to it and I'm fine. So I'm gonna have to figure out what it was that I was reacting to when I was putting these on. So for me, I feel that these two things, overhyped, I don't understand. They're not my favorite products at all. There are a couple of products here that I decided to try of my own accord that I don't think are worth it, which is these eye products. But there are a couple of stars of the show. First up, the concealer. I think I'm gonna love this. I didn't put that around my nose, so I'm pretty sure, because I only put that on my under eye, so I'm pretty sure it's not the concealer. It also can't be the foundation, because I've tried this before with other primers underneath it. So that's why my money for the itchiness is on one of these two. If you love your full coverage, you're gonna love this, I'm sure. The eyeshadow palette. I'm impressed. I want to play with this more. This is definitely going to go into a future eyeshadow palette review video, and you're going to see that one making another appearance for sure. And I'm also pretty impressed with these cheek products. So there are quite a few things here that I did really like, but at the end of the day, whether it was worth it, I did get a deal on some of these because they had a sale on the website I ordered them from, but it took over a month for these products to come my way because I think the warehouses in the UK, there were some strikes in the UK happening around the time I placed the order, and it took ages for these to get to me. So that's why, would I do this again? I'm not sure. I mean, e.l.f. has some good products for sure, but overall, I feel a bit meh about it because I don't want my skin to feel like this, and there are so many good drugstore products that don't make my skin feel like this that I know are just so much better and perhaps even more affordable. So yeah, I hope I wasn't too negative for your liking, but that's just the way it is. That's the reality of testing out a full face of makeup that you haven't tried before. You just never know what's gonna happen. So thank you so very much for watching today. I hope you got something out of it, and then I hope you would like to stay tuned for more, because I definitely do want to do some other full face makeup looks in the future. I've got a couple planned out already. I realized I've never done NYX. And yes, I still want to do drugstore Dutch makeup brands as well. So drugstore brands you can only find in the Netherlands. I'm gonna do it, but it's gonna have, I need to gather the product. So it's gonna take a while for me to figure out what I would like to get. So I have a full face makeup look. And I first need to declutter my makeup collection for sure. So that's all things you can still look forward to. And I hope you like to stay tuned. I post 4 times a week on here, so there's a lot more content coming your way. So I hope you like to stay tuned for more, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye!